The race for president in 2024 is certainly heating up, with President Joe Biden's polling numbers getting worse by the day, despite the fact that Joe Biden is acting like none of it matters. But President Trump also having some challenges with large sections of the voting public. You see, for millions of Americans, they're ready to see some new faces. But having said that, that polling also shows that Trump supporters, which represent a little more than 40% of those ready to cast ballots today, well, they are rock solid in their support. They're not going anywhere. The support for Joe Biden, a lot softer. And his missteps are certainly catching up with him. In fact, 3 national polls in a row give the edge to the former president to retake the White House next year. A new CBS poll released yesterday gives President Trump an important threshold, 50% support, which is something neither candidate had been able to reach in recent months. Here's how CNN is covering that.
So what is it that people think is at stake?
Well, I should also say we're polling on a race people don't seem to want.
Okay.
Which is to say, when we ask people how they feel about getting this rematch, they said that they think that means politics in the U.S. is broken. And, but look, having said that, they also see really high stakes here. And they say that not only is democracy and rule of law potentially at stake, but maybe in a sign of the times, it's only going to be safe if their guy wins.
Yeah, that doesn't make for stable elections, now does it? And who's to blame for that? Of course, it's Biden and the Democrats. For first claiming in 2016 the election was rigged, literally hacked by Russia. That was the false claim made over and over by Democrats and supported by the mainstream media. When that failed completely, they were trying at every turn to sink Donald Trump's presidency and get him out of office. And then, quote, fortifying the 2020 election to ensure that their guy, Joe Biden, won with mass mail-in balloting and everything else. But back to the polling for a moment. And the reason why Trump is edging out Biden, it's all pretty simple, really. Listen to this.
Donald Trump's voters overwhelmingly say one reason they're voting for him is they think things were better under him. And that relates to the economy. It relates to people's finances. I mentioned the pandemic. We look at whether people say they're doing better or worse now than they were before the pandemic. And people say they are not. By 2 to 1, they say that they are still worse off than better. And those people are voting for Donald Trump. That's kind of classic.
It is the latest sign the support is edging back toward the former president from the ever important swing voters. And there are signs that traditional voting blocs are also leaving Joe Biden and the Democrats because of so many failures over the past 32 months. NBC's new host of Meet the Press, Kirsten Welker, sat down with Donald Trump over the weekend, and they covered a whole bunch of issues. But those that hate the former commander-in-chief so much are screaming mad that the network would talk to him at all. Remarkable, isn't it? They're getting ripped for doing an interview with the Republican frontrunner and former president. Of course, at NBC, they pretend that grilling President Trump and putting him on TV for interviews is somehow tricky business. It's not. The American media never vetted Joe Biden, and this is just another example of the gross double standards in media today. Listen to this.
We have gotten criticism for just sitting down with former President Trump. He is the former president. He's facing 4 indictments as journalists. Just set the scene, the backdrop, why there is still news value and value for the public to hear from him.
Well, this is a huge challenge for American journalism, of course, right? It cannot be that a person can run for president of the United States, be a front runner in his party, and possibly win without ever being challenged by a tough, independent interviewer. And that's, I think, an important part of our system. Now, it obviously is a challenge for us because he is just going to spout out one thing after another, and fact-checking in real time is a real hard thing. But what you've done here is edit it and make sure people understand what's real and what's not.
Seriously? I mean, come on. NBC there made the fact that they even interviewed Trump into its own news story, warning what it all means for American journalism. Talk about buying your own hype. Why don't you ask the guy who's currently in the Oval Office if he sold out his country for a few bucks on the side, or a few $1 million, that is?